Sabah everybody, and welcome back to the channel, and I am super excited to be able to share with you guys my review of the OnePlus 7 Pro after using it for the last couple of weeks as my daily driver. Now, this device in my opinion not only met but exceeded all of my expectations after hearing all those leaks and rumors about the OnePlus 7 and OnePlus 7 Pro. But not only that, it actually lives up to the Pro moniker that was added to it. This is TK, and if you'd like to be able to save $20 on your next order from OnePlus, please make sure to check out the description below as there'll be a coupon for you guys to check out. But let's not waste any time. Let me show you why the OnePlus 7 Pro is so special. So what I have in front of us is the OnePlus 6, the OnePlus 6T, and the OnePlus 7 Pro. The difference as far as the evolution of hardware, for the most part, we started off with basically with the 6 and the 6T, the form factor stayed the same. We had different materials. The 6T had the Thunder Purple, we had the McLaren edition, but that's typical of the way OnePlus does things. For the most part, as far as the actual hardware, we have basically the 845 on both the 6 and the 6T, and we're now jumping over to the 855. RAM and storage, of course, also changed as far as availability, but the main big difference that we started with is that the fingerprint sensor went away from the 6 from the back all the way to the front, as that's when we started supporting the in-display fingerprint sensor. It's one of the basically the first evolutions that we started to see in that the 6T was going to change things as far as how we expect OnePlus. The other thing that we also lost here is the 3.5mm headphone jack that we had on the OnePlus 6, and that is no longer there, and we started using USB-C audio. And I think this is pretty much the new standard, as the OnePlus 7 Pro does not return to the basically the 3.5mm headphone jack. The last thing you'll notice, of course, is that the size difference is starting to go. We started going slightly bigger, and then now we are 6.67 as far as the size of the display. The battery capacity as well went up. We are up to 4,000 milliamps. But again, the biggest difference that we're looking at is as far as materials and availability. I would say that this OnePlus 7 Pro is really the successor of the OnePlus 6, not the OnePlus 6T. Although it learned a lot from the McLaren edition OnePlus 6T that basically started us off with the warp charger, and that's what we have now as a standard. Aesthetically, we still have the rockers on the side here as far as notification toggles. We have the power button. On the top, we have the pop-up camera for the 7 Pro and one of the microphones. On the left side, we have the volume rockers, of course, the dual SIM tray sitting on the right with the 6 and the 6T. The 7 Pro moves the SIM tray all the way to the bottom. And on the bottom, of course, we're looking at the USB-C for power and data transfer, as well as audio for all three of these devices. Although the OnePlus 6 had a 3.5mm headphone jack, and now with the OnePlus 7 Pro, we have stereo speakers using the bottom firing speaker and the earpiece in front of the display, and the dual SIM tray that's sitting at the bottom of the phone. The color that we have here is the Nebula Blue. There's three options as far as the colors that we're going to be getting with the OnePlus 7 Pro. We'll have the Nebula Blue. There's also going to be the Mirror Gray, something similar to what we have here, but it's called Mirror Gray. And of course is the Almond color that's going to be available as well. My understanding is at the launch event, we're going to be talking about the OnePlus 7 and the OnePlus 7 Pro. Today, we're going to basically focus on the OnePlus 7 Pro, as for the most part, it looks like this is the one that's going to T-Mobile in the US, as well as available directly from OnePlus on their website. The display is rated to be at a 6.7-inch display, QHD, and of course it has that curved display on the front and the back, and that's one of the new technologies that we have. As far as the fingerprint sensor, it is by far one of the fastest fingerprint sensors on the market. I mean, ridiculously speed. But let's go ahead and also use the camera. And the front-facing camera works great. Literally, by the time you actually slide it up, it opens up and it comes down. The mechanism for the camera on the front is actually very sturdy, and it does light up a little bit when you turn it on. And it does have also a drop detection. And you can see right there, as it recognized that there was movement in there outside of just me holding it, it automatically closed the camera and it basically protects itself. And that's definitely built in as a measure to protect the actual mechanism. It actually sits very flush to the actual unit, so you can pretty much see there is no gap, there's no wiggle for it to move, and it is pretty much a solid performer. Last couple of weeks I've been using it a lot. Now, looking at the sensors that we have on this device, we have 3 sensors in the back and a single sensor in the front. On the back, we have a 48 megapixel f1.6 OIS and EIS supporting lens. We have a 16 megapixel wide, ultra wide lens that gives us the ability of just fitting in so much more information, and that one is rated at 16 megapixels with f2.2. Lastly, we have a telephoto lens at 8 megapixels rated at f2.4 that enables us to have up to 3 times optical zoom natively built in here without having to go into digital zoom. We have a dual tone LED flash. On the front, we have a front facing sensor at 16 megapixel at f2.0 capable of going all the way to 1080p at 30 frames per second with EIS support, as well as autofocus and fixed focus. On the back sensors, we are able to go all the way up to 4K at 60 frames per second, which is really, really nice. Of course, there's going to be additional modes as far as even an updated night mode that gives us the ability of having better night shots available directly from this device. The resolution on this display. It is going to be supporting Oxygen OS 9.0 with basically Android 9.0 out of the box, but I'm pretty sure with the beta that's coming out right now, we should be able to see at least some betas available for the OnePlus 7 Pro for Android Q if you'd like to play with it. Although just keep in mind, initial betas generally are not as very functional, so if you're looking at this as a daily driver, I'd recommend you staying with Oxygen OS. And the latest build is 9.5.2, and that's going to be the latest one available for the OnePlus 7 Pro. Now, when we think of Oxygen OS, we think of all the customizations that we have. So the ability of doing swipe gestures, bring up, bring down. We have the shelf on the left side, all the different customizations that we have within the actual, OnePlus launcher, as well as the ability of still going here. Let's go ahead and swipe from the right. And as far as having private space to be able to put personal apps off limits from the standard launcher access. But as far as toggles and what we get in the display, normal toggles are all here. We have obviously, switch data card. It's obviously, since we have two cards, we have Wi-Fi data, all of that options. But we also have gaming mode with Fanatic support, and I'll share that with you guys in a second. Screen recording is actually now native to the device, which means we can actually click it, go into the settings option, check the resolution, the audio source, the video orientation, show touches, all of the things that you normally do. And when you start it, it works as you normally use your device. You can go in there, you can open up Chrome, scroll through, close it down, and then see all the different information. And the cool thing about it is that little pop-up does not actually sit on top of it. You can see the video, you can watch it directly. It works as you normally use your device. And as you can see, it works really nice. And one of the main benefits of it is that we now have a built-in editor. So I can go in directly into the gallery application, open up the video, I can add music to it. Let's go and stick the Epic song. I'll click it. And of course I can shift it to the other side. And you can save it and then of course share it directly on any of your social media accounts. That's one of the really cool things about it. It's built in not only video recording but also video editing into the OnePlus 7 experience. One of the main things about the OnePlus 7 Pro is the updated UFS storage that we have internally to that device. So one better way to show you guys how fast it is to compare it to the OnePlus 6T from last year. And you can pretty much see at all of the different indices. It's almost double on every single one. This device is basically screaming speed, and not only that, this will help you with loading. This will also help you whenever you're rendering information. If you're trying to process, anytime there's a read and write access to this device's storage, you're definitely going to get the fastest possible on the market. Now, talking about the customizations that we get within the Oxygen OS launcher specifically. So we have the home screen options, the add home screen, swipe down, shelf, double tap lock, drawer, of course, notification dot, icon pack, all of the things that you normally expect from what you have as far as customizations. Going into the settings, for the most part, we have the same list. I am running the dark theme. We have Wi-Fi and internet connectivity, Bluetooth options with Bluetooth 5.0 support, app and notifications, of course, as well as under the displays where we get some of the new features. The updated night mode is built in here, of course. We have reading mode, screen calibration. By default, it comes in with Vivid. I can turn it on to natural or advanced, and I'm running the display P3 color gamut. You can also go to sRGB or NTSC. Definitely very, very nice. But the next thing is where we see here is the screen refresh rate and the resolution, as we can also customize that. This display supports 90 Hz refresh, and that is just something that we have not seen on a OnePlus device before. Now, you can stay in 90 Hz at all times or switch it down to 60 Hz. Personally, I prefer to stay at 90 Hz because you can actually see the difference when you're holding two devices, one at 60 and one at 90. But unfortunately, the camera here, it doesn't really do a good job showing that to us. Screen resolution, out of the box, it comes in on auto switch, the ability to go between QHD and Full HD with the fluid AMOLED display here. And what essentially it's trying to do here is to give you the best camera experience to save you battery as much as possible. We have linear enhancer as well as ambient display. Unfortunately, no always on display. Theme support with accent color, font support, of course, display, font, all of that. As far as status bar customizations, you can go in there and change it. You can turn on the battery percentages and style, and of course, screensaver. Sound and vibration has definitely been something that they've worked on. We have Dolby Atmos sound surround support here with the stereo speakers as well as the headphones. Unfortunately, there's no headphones included in the box, but you can definitely customize the experience with the earphone mode here, as this has definitely been there from before. But the Dolby Atmos support, very nice. You have dynamic movie and music, and you can customize your hearing experience. But as far as the vibration sensitivity, I know a lot of us have had concerns with the OnePlus devices and their vibration motor. So let's go ahead. I have here the OnePlus 6T, and we'll go ahead and turn it on. I'm just going to give you guys a quick sample, audio sample of how the vibration motor sounds now. So for incoming calls, I'm going to change it to strong. And here is the OnePlus 7 Pro. Definitely a much better improvement, and again, more consistent with what we can expect from flagship devices. Buttons and gestures are pretty much standard navigation gesture style. Out of the box, we have the 3-button back, home, and recent. We have the ability of going with the Android Pie style of buttons, or we can go with full screen gestures, which is what I personally like to have. Of course, as far as quick gestures for turn, while the display is off, quick turn on camera, as well as quick activate the assistant app, and that enables us to launch the assistant by using the power button. It depends if you'd like to do that or just launch it directly from your home screen. Battery on this thing is running a 4000 milliamp battery. That's really nice and a big upgrade. It is supporting the Warp Charger 30, and of course there'll be another video posted on the channel soon showcasing how long does it take us to charge up this battery and how long does this battery last. We have obviously battery optimizations, adaptive battery, as well as battery saver turned on in there. Storage wise, as I mentioned to you guys, this is the 256 gigabyte model. I'm using about 37%, so even the 128 gig model should still last you quite a bit. This is after I imported all my information. As you can see, I have about maybe a lot of photos and pictures and the videos that I've imported into the device. Now, under the utilities where we see some of the additional customizations, we have gaming mode, and I talked to you guys at the beginning about fanatic mode, and that's sitting right there. It does try to auto detect your games. If it doesn't, you can add an additional game here. You can customize your notifications and what comes through, as far as also optimizations for third-party basically applications. If you want to basically turn out anything and make sure that it's focusing on the game, it does have to be turned on within gaming mode. So you turn on gaming mode, and you'll notice by default it's asking us, do we want to turn on fanatic mode or do we want to just turn on standard gaming mode? And you can go into the settings of what you want to do. Fanatic mode goes a step further, and it gives us the ability of blocking all notification calls, restricts background for boosting the game, as well as stop secondary SIM for optimizations. And you can turn it on, you'll see that little nice logo, and of course now you're in there. And the cool thing about it is you can switch between fanatic mode and standard gaming mode directly within the notification, and of course as well as getting out of it. We have the ability of customizing the quick launch apps by just basically pressing the fingerprint sensor, holding it, and then switching over. You can customize the different experience here, and we'll go back. And of course, last but not least, we have parallel apps, app locker, schedule on and off, OnePlus Switch, still here, very, very nice. Of course, OnePlus Laboratory to be able to turn on the DC dimming, and of course, quick reply in landscape. Under the system tab, we have, for the most part, the same information. We have the updating system updates information here. This is the new style. Of course, we have RAM boost that's turned on and by default activated. Multiple user account, recent app management. By default, this one is running on normal. You can go deep clear, which becomes a little bit more aggressive in closing applications. But with 12 gigs of RAM, or even starting with the 6 gig of RAM, we shouldn't have any problems with running at least a few applications before we start closing any of those. OTG by default is still present here, or you could just add that little toggle for it at the top, and you can activate it or disable it directly. If you don't use it for some time, it will disable itself. Zen mode, of course, and all the other options are there. And of course, developer options will be in there once you activate it, when you go under About Device and then click on the build number up to 10 times, and it'll turn on developer options for you. Looking over at the camera application, the modes that we have here support the 3 lenses that we have in the front as well as in the back. On the back, we have 3 sensors. We have 3 right here, the wide angle lens. It goes basically 0.64, the standard focal length, as well as the 3-time optical. And we'll get a chance to see some of those pictures. Under video, we have the ability of going between 4K and 1080p, both supporting 60 frames per second options, as well as the ability of going up to 3 times optical zoom, so you can actually zoom in with the sensors on that as well. No wide angle lens, unfortunately, support at this point. Under photo, as I mentioned to you guys, we have the ability of customizing the timer. All the modes, as I mentioned before, are all sitting there. And of course, you can actually switch over to the front-facing camera. And the front-facing camera will only pop up whenever you're using it for either video or photos. And if you do actually do, like, let's say, accidental drop, it does actually put it back in. And of course, I can switch over between the front and the back very easily. And there is a little bit of an LED light that turns on right there just to let us know that the camera is popping up. Never, ever, ever push the camera down. Always use the actual configuration or the button on it for it to turn off. And that will basically help protect the mechanism that we have on the camera. We have portrait mode support, of course, Nightscape updated now with new version of Nightscape 2.0, and that's just supposed to give us better images in the dark, and we'll get a chance to try that out. Pro mode is the only way for us to be able to access the 48 megapixel sensor on this device. So if you want to be able to access that, the standard photo mode does not go to 48. You have to go into Pro mode and turn it on, and by default it is not running. So you can click that, change it to 48, and enjoy true 48 megapixel sensor images. And we have the ability of using the jog dial here to be able to customize the experience as far as the camera. We have time lapse, slow motion. We have the ability of going up to 1080p at 240 frames per second, 720p at 480 frames per second, and we have panorama. And of course, last but not least, is the settings for to go into the actual options. We have HDR, manual HDR controls that you can turn on, smart content detection, which is essentially their AI system to customize and get the best scene optimization for those images. And of course, store location, grid size, shot on OnePlus, mirrored photo, histogram, as well as horizontal reference guide. And the histogram is present in the Pro mode, so you can go in there, switch over between that. And when we go into Pro mode, we'll notice that the histogram is turned on by default. So we're using the front-facing sensor on the OnePlus 7 Pro, and right now we are basically capped at 1080p. My only hope is that maybe with a software update that we'll be able to actually push beyond that and get at least some kind of a maybe 4K at 30 frames per second. Of course, the back sensors is definitely where it's going to be at, but for front-facing selfie, for pictures and video, the front-facing camera will do great. And as far as the back-facing video, we don't have a way of jumping in between the wide-angle lens and the actual regular lens. You're pretty much stuck with whatever mode you're in. You do have the ability of going up to 3 times optical zoom, so I'm assuming we're also using the secondary sensor, but the wide-angle lens, unfortunately, not for video. Other than that though, from what you guys can see, the images and the actual video quality is actually pretty good, and the audio quality as well, as you can hear from the actual quality. There is some wind and some birds around here, and it actually does really good at isolating its subject. One of the main benefits, of course, here is that we can go all the way up to 4K at 60 frames per second with the back-facing sensors, and that's definitely very appreciated, especially on a phone that's supposed to be meant for speed and high quality. As you can see there in the video, both the audio and the video look really good. We just currently do not have the ability of taking a wide-angle lens video using the back-facing sensor. So for the most part, that lens is pretty much used now just for basically just pictures. Hopefully in the future we'll be able to use it. But as far as image processing, we have the ability of using, again, the scene detection. This is just a standard image, and then this is, we'll go back, and this is the 48 megapixels version of it. It is slightly overexposed, sharpened, but just keep in mind that whenever you're taking images at the 48 megapixel sensor, these images will take somewhere between 16 to 17 megabytes per image. So just keep that in mind. The standard focal, the standard images with auto processing will automatically come up around 5 megabytes. Again, look really good. And of course, tuning with the scene detection mode that we have there. Last but not least is just the ability of using the sensors to their full extent. So this is a standard focal length. You can zoom in, you can look at all the details, it exposes correctly. Again, both for the foreground and the background. We have the ability of going to 3 times optical zoom using that telephoto lens that we have installed, as well as the ability of going wide-angle lens. And it does have scene detection as far as basically the wide-angle lens bending on the edges of the image correction. So it does a really good job of that. And of course, you can switch over to 48 megapixel sensor. And of course, this is where it becomes a little bit more obvious, is that the detail in the 48 one is a lot sharper when you're zooming in, as opposed to what we have with the standard focal length. Again, the 48 megapixel is great if you have some time to be able to use it, and it is available in the Pro mode. Front-facing pictures will look really good even in sunlight situations, and it exposes them very nicely. I did a quick video here when I was at the Googleplex with Michelle last week for the Google I/O event, and it is very, very nice. Images right there. We were there taking a picture right there, hanging out, and of course we were hanging out with Joshua Vergara, as he was actually our guide when we were walking around the Googleplex. Overall experience using the camera will not disappoint. Definitely an improvement to what we've had before with OnePlus devices. And of course, you know, just definitely something to be able to check out and experience yourself. Now, to do a quick audio sample of this, of course, we want to be able to listen to those stereo speakers. We'll go ahead and play NCS Jumbo. This is a Alex Grindo song. It's a non-copyright release. As you heard, the audio quality is definitely very nice. The speakers get pretty loud. Audio quality as far as phone calls is as well really nice. Again, we do support dual SIM cards on this device, and of course, you're just getting the best of the best of what we can get right now from OnePlus. The stereo speaker at the top is very, very nice, and of course, it just sounds so much more immersive whenever you're watching content on this device. Now, the fact of the matter is that the box does not include a USB-C adapter anymore. They want us to basically rely on audio using Bluetooth. The brand new wireless Bullets 2 are not only better as far as faster at charging, but also last you longer, and they also support aptX HD, as you can see, that HD audio basically compatibility. Really nice, very, very good, and they work directly with your OnePlus 7. Pairing is very quick. You'll be able to basically start listening to music, and of course using the magnetic start and stop. So we'll go ahead and launch the Google Play Music, and you can see it right there that it recognized the aptX HD, and of course the audio is playing right there. And of course, when you're done listening to it, put them together, audio stops, put them away. Give it a second, and the audio starts again. Very nice and very easy, and of course they are very light and they sit on your shoulders very nicely. A nice upgrade to what we had last year with the first generation. And as you notice right out of the box, the gaming mode detects that it's a game and it wants to turn on. And I'm going to go ahead and enable Fanatic mode just to kind of kick it into notch, and then we'll say got it. and I'll say okay. So now it's running and it's sitting in the notification state, and it does say Fanatic mode is turned on. Again, if I want to turn off Fanatic mode and go to standard gaming mode, I can just switch it from there without ever leaving the game. And of course, the next thing is the main thing that we really want to be able to check out is the ability of actually using screen recording when we are actually using the phone. So here it is, screen recorder on. It's going to turn on right there, and I'm going to start it up. As you can see, we are running the game itself. Screen recording is still running right there, and I can move the actual toggle for it, and we can jump in. You can change your outfit. You can go in there and select your different characters, all of that, and just jump in directly into the game. Now, unfortunately, at this time, we do not have support for 60 frames per second gameplay. Even though we have a 90 hertz display here on this device, it is pretty much capped at 30 frames per second. But I'm really hoping within the near future, we'll be able to see some of those optimizations, even just going to 60 frames per second, as some of the other devices on the market, like let's say the Galaxy S10 or even the Honor View 20 have. So there's a lot of things that I covered for you guys today in the video, and of course there's a couple of things that I would have wished OnePlus would be able to address, or at least have provided us in this build. The first obviously would be wireless charging. We don't have that. That's something that we've heard about from the past, and we've never really seen it come in there. Now, as far as the IP68 rating, we don't have any IP rating on this device. We did see a note from them on a video where they dunked this phone in water. So I'm assuming it is somewhat water resistant or splash resistant. I would definitely not put this in water. I'm probably not going to be actually putting it in water. The mechanism itself is a little bit worrying me. I would love to be able to see a little bit longer experience to see basically if there's anything that could potentially get stuck there. It is quite snug, so I'm really wouldn't be surprised if nothing does get in there, but for the most part, it's definitely something that concerns me. Last but not least is we still don't have a 3.5mm headphone jack, and they did increase the size of the device, so I'm expecting it that maybe they could have fit it in there, but I guess not in this build. And of course, last but not least is the wide-angle lens video on the back sensor. We only have telephoto, and that's something that's really cool, but a lot of us would love to be able to use the wide-angle lens to just fit in so much more of your scene in the actual video that you're trying to shoot. But other than that, realistically, the OnePlus 7 Pro is a definite hit. There's no question that they basically have answered all of the things that we've wanted. For me, stereo speakers has been a must and a need for a long, long time. So I'm really very, very happy with the way they have to offer things here. I'm glad that they're still available through T-Mobile, and we definitely do get the 8GB 256 model there. And again, about $699. As far as the base model, will be about $669, and that's going to be the 6GB 128 in mirror gray color. The 8GB 256 will be in mirror gray as well as Nebula blue. And when it comes to the actual full-blown 12GB model that I have right here, that's going to be at $749, and that's literally the price of basically the Galaxy S10e, the base model of the Galaxy S10 line of devices. But this one has the QHD display, the Dolby Atmos stereo speakers, the fingerprint sensor that's just super fast, the front-facing pop-up camera, all of the things that we really love with the OnePlus. So definitely, if you're thinking about getting the OnePlus 7 Pro, definitely check out the link in the description below, as it will help you to basically save $20 off that price. So even at the $669, you can get $20 off of that device. Like and subscribe as usual, share this video with all your friends, and let me know what you guys think. Of course, I'll see you guys in the next video.